All right, let's dive right into this. Imagine, just for a second, a future where the next massive leap in computing doesn't come from some shiny, cold piece of silicon. What if it came from something alive? We are talking about a totally sci-fi reality that's actually happening right now. Computers being built using living human brain cells. Welcome to the wild world of Wetware. So, to really wrap our heads around why scientists are doing this, check out this absolutely staggering comparison. Right now, the world's top supercomputers can chew through up to 40 megawatts of power. That is literally enough energy to power thousands of homes. You practically need a small nuclear plant just to turn the thing on. But then, contrast that with the human brain. Your brain, which is capable of just unimaginable complexity, runs perfectly on about 20 watts. That's less power than a standard light bulb. You can run all day on the energy of a single banana. This massive, mind-boggling gap in efficiency, that's exactly why scientists are turning to biology. So here's how we're going to break down this wild biotechnology in today's explainer. First, we'll look at the AI energy crisis. Then, enter the biocomputer. Step 3, how to actually build a brain. 4, training cells to play Pong. 5, the ethics of wetware. And finally, the future of intelligence. All right, Section 1, the AI energy crisis, AI's unsustainable appetite. To really understand why biocomputing is an absolute necessity and not just a weird science experiment, we have to look at this number. 1,580 terawatt hours. Estimates suggest that by 2034, data centers worldwide, the ones running all this new generative AI, could consume this much energy every single year. To put that into perspective, that is roughly the power usage of the entire country of India. Training these complex AI models on traditional silicon hardware requires massive, completely unsustainable server farms that are just straining power grids all over the globe. And here is the technological wall we're hitting right now. For decades, we've relied on Moore's law, right? This idea that we can just keep shrinking transistors down to double our computing power. But as companies layer materials down to literally a single atom thick, we're hitting hard physical limits. I mean, you simply can't go thinner than an atom. And at the exact same time, AI's demand for power is just skyrocketing. Our digital neural networks, which are built on these rigid ones and zeros, they're incredibly powerful, sure, but they are woefully inefficient compared to nature. So scientists realize they desperately need an alternative. Which brings us to Section 2. Enter the biocomputer, the leap to living processors. Groundbreaking companies like FinalSpark in Switzerland and Cortical Labs over in Australia are pioneering this radical solution called Wetware. Basically, Wetware is the integration of living biological matter, specifically lab-grown human neurons, with artificial hardware and software. Think about that for a second. We are literally talking about fusing living brain cells with circuit boards so they can process digital information. It's wild. And the reason they're doing this comes down to one massive number, 1 million. Biological neurons are estimated to be a staggering 1 million times more energy efficient than our current digital hardware. 1 million! If we can harness even a tiny fraction of the processing power of these biological cells, we could run highly advanced AI systems at a fraction of the economic and environmental cost. Honestly, they're the ultimate eco-friendly server. All right, moving on to Section 3, how to build a brain, from skin to silicon. Now, before your imagination runs entirely wild here, let me assure you, no humans or animals are harmed to harvest these cells. They aren't taking cells from people's heads. Here's how it actually works. They start with a basic adult human skin cell or just a blood sample. Then, using a Nobel Prize-winning technique, they biologically reprogram that skin cell backward in time until it becomes a stem cell. From there, they coax it to grow into a three-dimensional 10,000 neuron sphere called an organoid. It's essentially a mini brain structure about the size of a pinhead. Finally, they take this living organoid and place onto a multi-electrode array, or an MEA. This is a special chip with tiny electrodes that can read the electrical spikes the cells naturally emit, and it can also send electrical signals right back into them. It is just a beautifully surreal reality. FinalSpark actually operates a neural platform right now where they keep 16 of these brain organoids alive in a laboratory. But just think about what it takes to maintain a living computer. It needs a continuous flow of liquid nutrients. It has to be kept in an incubator at a super strict 37 degrees Celsius, normal body temperature. If it gets a bacterial infection, well, your computer gets sick. And eventually, after about 100 days or so, these processors actually pass away. It is literally hardware that you have to keep alive.
Section 4. Training cells to play Pong. The dish brain breakthrough. So you have a clump of living cells hooked up to a chip. It doesn't have eyes, it doesn't have a keyboard or a mouse. How on earth do you program it to actually do anything? Well, Dr. Brett Kagan from Cortical Labs asked this exact same question. His team decided to find out by hooking up 800,000 neurons, which is roughly the brain capacity of a bumblebee, by the way, and attempting to teach them to play the classic 1970s arcade game Pong. They called this wild experiment Dish Brain. The training method they used here is incredibly ingenious. They relied on something called the free energy principle, which basically suggests that biological systems naturally want to minimize surprise. They crave predictable environments. So the chip sends electrical pulses to tell the neurons where the digital Pong ball is. If the neurons fire signals that move the paddle and they miss the ball, the scientists punish them by zapping them with chaotic, super annoying electrical static. But if the neurons successfully hit the ball, they're rewarded with a smooth, predictable electrical signal. In some experiments, they even gave them an actual microscopic burst of the feel-good chemical dopamine. And guess what? Very quickly, the cells actively learn to hit the ball just to avoid that chaotic static. Crazy, right? Now, notice the profound difference in how learning happens here. When a standard silicon processor runs an AI, it's really just flipping rigid ones and zeros to run a mathematical simulation. But when these biological neurons learn to play Pong, they are physically and chemically changing. They are actually growing new connections and strengthening synapses. It is genuine, physical, in vitro learning. The hardware literally rewires its own physical structure to get better at the task. It's blowing my mind just thinking about it.
Which brings us to Section 5, the ethics of wetware. Minds in a petri dish?
Okay, we need to slow down for a second here and look at the profound philosophical implications. It's the elephant in the room, right? At what point does a biocomputer become conscious, and could it ever feel pain? Now, researchers are incredibly clear that a 10,000-cell clump currently sitting in a dish is absolutely not conscious. It has stored maybe one bit of information. But scientists are already actively consulting with philosophers, because as they inevitably scale this technology up to millions or billions of cells to create advanced artificial intelligence, they have to proactively ask, could scaling this up eventually create self-awareness or even suffering? As it stands right now, the industry is establishing some strict, clear guardrails. First off, these lab-grown cells have never been part of a living human being. They are completely synthetic lab creations. Also, they have no sensory bodies attached to them to experience the world. Philosophers are actively advising these startups on where the moral limits should be, and companies like Cortical Labs are actually seeking public input to really understand society's ethical boundaries. We're just reporting exactly what the scientists and philosophers are debating right now. They are navigating entirely uncharted moral territory, and they're really trying to do it responsibly. Finally, Section 6, the future of intelligence, biology and machines merging. So where is this biocomputing industry heading next, and how soon is it going to impact us? Well, it's happening a lot faster than you might think. Cortical Labs is already finalizing a product called the CL1. This is an actual portable biocomputer unit containing live neurons inside a specialized life support box that handles all the fluid and temperature automatically. And get this, they plan to sell this unit to researchers and tech startups for around $35,000. That brings Wetware out of the multi-million-dollar lab and right onto the desktop of everyday researchers. The ultimate goals of Wetware extend way beyond just sustainable AI. I mean, while slashing global energy use is a massive deal, the secondary impacts are just as revolutionary, particularly in medical research. Imagine taking skin cells from an Alzheimer's or Parkinson's patient, growing them into a biocomputer circuit, and testing how quickly that specific circuit forgets a task like Pong. Scientists could test highly targeted drugs directly on living, computing human tissue instead of relying on animal models. We are quite literally looking at an era of hybrid computing, where silicon and biology work together to solve some of our absolute greatest challenges. So I want to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought. As we march toward a future where our most advanced machines aren't just simulating human intelligence, but are literally powered by the exact same biological cells that sit inside our own heads, if our computers are built from our own biology, who is really doing the thinking? Is it the machine, or is it an extension of us? It completely blurs the line between human and hardware. It's just a fascinating frontier, and I really hope this explainer helps you understand exactly how it works. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and I'll see you on the next explainer.